Welcome, everybody. This is the October edition of Plant Powered Conversations that Sprout Ethical Change. And we're really happy that you're here. My name is Johanna, and I'm here with my friend Bree.
Hey there.
And today we're going to be talking about marketing, which is one of both of our favorite topics. And more specifically, we're going to look into some cool examples of email marketing that you can also hopefully learn from and take ideas for your own marketing. So we're going to do copy critiques of three plant-based brands, or different kinds of cool brands we've found who, in our opinion, do email marketing really well. And we're going to share our thoughts with you and do a live critique. We're going to be sharing our screens, so that's what you can expect from today.
Let's see. So in writing emails as a copywriter for a brand, I keep a whole inspo file, like an inspiration file from my own inbox, and I highly recommend that you guys do as well. Mostly in my inspiration file are just screenshots of subject lines, because I follow so many email lists that grab my attention, make me laugh, pique my interest. So make sure with your subject lines that you are creating a hook that's really engaging and resonates with your target audience. What is going to make them laugh? What is going to make them open the email? Whatever your intention is for that email. It doesn't have to be humor, but I am partial to humor. As far as the body of the email, I always advise my clients to not be afraid to get vulnerable, to really show their authenticity and who they really are in their storytelling. This can come with a background story of why they founded their company or why they founded their organization and why they're working on that mission. It can also come with the use of specific words, right? We are both mentors of Alex Cotoni at the Copy Posse, and she is one of the most authentic writers that you will read. She uses words like rad. And when was the last time you saw rad just generally in the world? I only see it with Alex's stuff. Yeah. So she has a whole bit of language that's very authentic to her and her brand. So really leaning into that with your email storytelling. And then probably one of my pet peeves that I usually flag for clients is to not go overboard with design. In the world of social media and Instagram and everything has to be flashy and everything, right? All too often people want to make it colorful and bright and tons of pictures, and that's great. It has a place, and I'm not trying to make you go away from that, but play around and test some plain white emails. Only include one picture. The more pictures you include, it could hurt deliverability. So those are things to keep in mind. But the busier it is, the harder it is for the person to really understand your message oftentimes. So sometimes simplicity wins. If you're curious to see how it works for your brand, do an A/B test. Test the same content of the email with a plain format and a fancy format and see which gets more engagement, right? So yeah, those are some of the things that I look for in emails. How about you, Joanna?
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of good stuff. I can only agree. I think when it comes to subject lines, I mean, they're so important, because it's what decides whether people are going to read your message or not. When I write emails, I actually find subject lines the hardest. And I think one tip I would give is really don't try to write it first, or maybe you function that way, but I feel the more I practice, or the more I variations I try to come up with, they just get better and better with time, and with practice you also get better. But I think don't put too much effort into that from the get-go. It's better, I think, to do it once the actual email is finished. And I think for me personally, kind of going to very basics, when I start to write an email, I mean, mostly for my clients, because I don't have my own email list yet. I'm planning to start it, but I kind of like really focus like, okay, like, why am I writing this email? Like there should always be a reason, and what is the value to the person, the one person who's reading the email, like why, like whether you're trying to convince them of something or tell a story or sell something or make them open your blog, like really kind of try to put myself in their shoes as much as possible, and like why is the email valuable, and for sure I also love these very like personality packed emails where people just like share what they're doing, like books they read, like thoughts, whatever happened, like even when you're not necessarily like selling anything, and all the emails you send have their place. It's actually good that you don't just send sales emails all the time, and I think the storytelling, what you also mentioned, it's so important, and emails are a perfect place to practice storytelling, because people really love stories, and even if you don't believe it, like you also have cool stories, and whatever you're doing out in the world, like you can, there's almost always like some story you can connect to the point you want to make, and just remember people love it, and like specific things like funny like details. I like that kind of stuff at least, and I think that's what came to my mind now.
Point though, because I think all too often we think that we have to be perfect, or that we have to be very polished, especially when it comes to businesses. They want to look very like put together and create a very curated look and feel, but people buy from people. So even if you're not the face of your brand, do a takeover for a day and send an email as the founder and tell your story, or tell something that's going on in your life, and link it back to your product. Like if you're a nail polish brand, talk about how you went to get a manicure and things went awry and you really wish that they just had the vegan polish that you wanted, and tie it back to what you're selling, and sell that pain point that resonates with your audience, right? So it can be a mix. And I think that's such an important point that you brought up that I just want to hit home is you have to nurture too. Like you have to speak to the human too. These brands that are just spamming people with sales and the latest drop and all, it turns into noise, and it goes into the promotions folder, it goes into the spam folder all too easily. The way to avoid that is to be human, right?
Like nobody wants that. Like I speak for everybody. It's like nobody just wants like this random noise in their inbox. Like they're full enough. So this human connection, even if you have like an e-commerce brand, or I bet even for the most whatever B2B high tech brand, there's like a human connection that you can acknowledge and like nurture if you like dare to maybe do. Sometimes it might mean like daring to do differently than people generally do, but that's a way to stand out also. So
absolutely. And I think too, those that aren't in the marketing world that might have built a small email list to this point, or the email retention numbers aren't where they want, it can be all too easy to forget how important email is, and it can be all too easy to just sell. If you want to build an email, if you want an email list, if you want to build that steadfast community of supporters and customers that are there for you to tap into whenever you want, like you already know that they love your products. It's not like social media where they might follow you, they might not, maybe they just saw your ad, you don't know if they really like your product. These people gave you information, and they are there because they believe in your brand, right? And so it's so important to really lean into your email list. Plus, let's put on our little nerdy marketing hats for a minute. And people are in their inboxes, right? They are opening emails. It is the place to reach your customers. And I want to emphasize that, because I've spoken to a few clients recently that are like, oh yeah, I have an email list. I never email them. I'm like, oh no. If they never hear from you and you just come out of the blue selling something, like that feels really off to them. You have to build a relationship with them. But if you do that, if you put in that work, then they are there ready to buy your product, ready to support you. So I just wanted to stress that too.
Yeah, I'm really glad you did, because it's the truth. And kind of like building on that, like I think a lot of people just like remember that your social media following, or the people, like you don't have any control over that at the end of the day, but your email is yours. Like I've often mentioned this one example, like the Finnish the January, like the Finnish version, their Instagram account got hacked at the start of this year, and they lost something, I think it was like 20,000 followers or even more. And they like luckily they had an email list that they could email and let them know, hey, this happened. But imagine if you didn't have a list. And I mean, even now, like they're still like trying to get some of the people back, or most, like these things happen, like you never know.
All right, so you want to dive into some specific emails? Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
So I picked two brands because I'm indecisive. But the first one is Mudwater, and you guys might be familiar with this. It's a coffee alternative brand. I'm trying to cut caffeine in Q4, so Mudwater is helping me do that. But the reason I picked them is because their marketing has me laughing. Every single email, every single communication that I get from them, they really leverage humor. And as I mentioned at the top, humor is my weak point. I mean, just look at the subject line up here. We look forward to sleeping with you. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Wait, what? So not only was that humorous, but it caught my attention, because I'm like, wait, what? Like, because it has a double meaning, sleeping. So I was like, okay, who's sleeping with what now? And it made me open the email to figure out what they were talking about. And immediately their headline is, oh wait, that didn't sound right. So they're continuing the joke, they're owning that play on words. And then they're bringing you through the email by saying, let us explain. It gets you to scroll through the email. One thing that we didn't mention at the top is that all too often people open the email, see the header, see that first little bit, and if they're not hooked, they're not going to keep scrolling. So they'll click in, click out. So it doesn't matter how great your story is, if you can't get them past that first paragraph or that first header, you're not going to get anywhere with them on that email. So I really loved how they brought me through the email. And then they tell a little bit of story. It started as a morning ritual, but often best morning ritual starts the night before. Didn't even think about that. Yeah, sleep, you're right. And so they're educating, they're talking about their products, they're talking about the ingredients, but they're bringing a relevant story to me. Like, yeah, I am currently in a place where I am changing my morning routine. Never thought about how my sleeping routine transitions into that. So I loved the combination of humor, relevancy, and storytelling here. And then they pick up the humor again. The taste is equivalent to curling up with your grandma's knitted Afghan and reading the 6th Harry Potter book on a stormy Sunday evening.
I love the specificity. It's like so.
Exactly. I can picture that too. Yeah. That's another great point about emails, is the more you can tell that story and put your reader specifically in the scenario that you're trying to convey, where your product can help them, the more you're going to get engagement out of that email. And again, they end with, so dim the lights, put on some Nora Jones, and say hello to your new evening routine. I mean, come on, how are you not going to click shop now? I loved this email. But to show some variety, I wanted to pull one of their other emails that wasn't as humorous. Um, it still had a hook in the headline and that subject line, excuse me, that made me open it. I'm not mad at coffee, just disappointed.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm
Yeah.
trying to switch, right? I'm also disappointed in coffee, but it was a fun way to say it, and it caught my attention in my very crowded inbox. Um, and then they tell me exactly what's going to be in this email in their header, how it all began. Okay, I'm sitting down and I'm ready for a story. This is going to be a founding story about the brand. The other thing too is you'll notice who this is from.
Mm.
Most of their emails are from Mudwater, but this is from Shane
Yeah.
from Mudwater. And so sometimes it's good for brands to mix it up, like we talked about in the beginning. Like if you're a founder and you mostly send from Mudwater, um, to put your name in there, and that'll catch attention because they'll be like, wait, I haven't seen that before. Let me open this and see what it's about. I haven't seen Shane before. Um, and then he immediately introduces himself. He doesn't make me wait to figure out who he is, why he's emailing me. I'm Shane. I started Mudwater, and here's why. Immediately clear, cut to the point. I know what to expect. And he identifies with me and some of the pain points that I'm going through. I liked coffee. I did too. The smell, the taste, but I liked the ritual. Same, Shane. I could not start my day before I had my cup of coffee. So he's really identifying with his audience here. But the dream stopped there. I would finish the cup and have an anxious peak of sprinting alertedness. Oh my gosh, me too. I would answer so many emails at 9 o'clock in the morning as soon as my coffee hit. But now it's this easy ritual that Mudwater has brought me. So he explains that he dropped coffee, lost his ritual, but wanted to create a new one. And that's where Mudwater came from. He nailed the recipe. He explains what it tastes like with a little bit of humor, right?
Yeah.
Masala chai and mushrooms made a baby, a really healthy baby. He talks about the benefits, right? But gives you a little peek into the taste as well. And it's comforting because it lets me know that he's got me. And that's one of the best things that you can do in an indoctrination sequence is let your customer know, hey, I see you, I understand you, and I've got you. This product is going to hold your hand through this transition. And he ends it with gratitude, which just felt like a perfect cap on an email that's all about like comforting and replacing your ritual with something that's going to bring you the same
Yeah.
level of comfort, right?
Oh, I love it.
Right? Yeah, I think they do a great job.
Yeah.
I think one more thing I wanted to mention with Mudwater, oh yeah, was it would F up my sleep and leave me groggy the next day. So when we were talking about phraseology with Alex earlier, another thing to think about with your brand is, do you curse?
Mm.
Do you use specific words? Do you use humor? Some brands don't even use humor. So again, like this is a brand that isn't afraid to play with that, isn't afraid to curse. But think about your own brand and think about your target audience. Are they someone that curses? Are they someone that would be open to seeing someone curse? Not every brand is. But the more you think about your phraseology, the easier it is to write to someone who speaks or reads that way. Yeah. I'll pause there for a minute, Joanna. Any reflections or reactions?
Like I was wondering if you have any like feedback, like things to improve on from Mudwater at this point, or
That's a really good question.
like not that there
I,
always needs to be like I also really I love it, like it's very
yeah.
engaging, but
No,
I was wondering if anything came to mind.
yeah, I think the main thing that came to mind for me, like I mentioned, this email from Shane was in the minority in their emails. So one thing that might be nice to see would be some sprinkling or experimentation with reviews. Um, Especially when you're asking someone to give up something that is such a habit, something that
Yeah.
like is just a part of them. Like coffee was just a part of me. I just did it automatically. The more I can see that other people made the transition easily, so maybe hearing from some of your past customers, like in the first email that we showed, maybe if he put a review at the bottom about how that nighttime mud water helped someone with their morning routine, that might have sealed the deal, you know, and really made me want to press shop now. So I think my main piece of feedback would be to experiment with reviews and not be afraid to leverage those.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Then the next brand, not necessarily a plant-based brand, but I thought dogs. Who doesn't love dogs? So I, again, absolutely love BarkBox. Again, they are one that, you know, catches my attention with humor oftentimes. But one thing that they do more often than Mudwater is they are doing a little bit more of that almost spammy subject line where they're like, hey, these new toys just dropped, or hey, there's a sale. You know what I mean? And so if we're thinking about critiques, like maybe we can focus a little bit more on identifying your target audience and what is going to interest them about the drop, instead of just like, hey, new products, but why do I care about the new products, and put that in the subject line instead. But this email in particular, I liked that the subject line was a note from your dog. So I was like, wait, what? My dog wrote me something. It caught my attention. And then you'll see the send from name is Pie and BarkBox, and Pie is my dog. So they put in my dog's name to the send from name. So it was like my dog was emailing me. So I thought that was really clever. And then they proceed to write the email from my dog's point of view, which again, I thought was really clever, because you're thinking about a brand that is that has a target audience who are people that are willing to spend more on their animals, right? This is not a need. This isn't dog food, vet care, or something like that. This is toys. So they're spending extra money on their animals every month. So this is someone who wants to spoil their animals. They think of them as having voices and whole lives outside of what we do with them every day. Like, what do they do when I go to work? I want to know, you know, that type of person. And so giving my dog a voice was really, really clever here. Dear human, as we've discussed, typing messages without thumbs is really hard. Immediately I'm laughing, I'm hooked, I'm going to read the whole email, right? And then there's a little bit of gratitude. I appreciate you getting me BarkBox. It's a sneaky way to drop in their brand when I'm already thinking about my animal and something I love, right? So they're tying that empathy and that compassion that I have for my animal to their brand, which is really, really smart from a psychology and marketing standpoint. They've now equated their brand with the love I have for my animal. So let's see, especially so I could stop emailing you every time we're running low on toys. Because every once in a while they will shoot an email like, oh, it's time for Pie's next box, or Pie wants to let you know that it's time for her next box, that sort of thing. So they continue it. Word on the street has it that many of my friends at the dog park are still living without this modern miracle. Dogs living without BarkBox? You know, this tone of voice, again, thinking of words, thinking of how you're going to speak to this person. Sometimes the easiest thing to do would be to think about your brand, and then think about which of your friends would buy that brand or use that brand. And then how would you talk to your friend about that brand? So this lighthearted and an easygoing tone of voice that they have is something that I would use with my friends. And I think it's really on point. And then they end the email, love Pie. So again, from my dog. So I absolutely love that they bring my dog into this. The other email for contrast from them is more of a salesy email. So Scout at Bark is their normal send from name. But they did include my dog's name in the subject line. So it still got my attention. Not to scare Pie, but open loop. But what? Why is Pie scared? I want to know. And immediately it's their new collection, right? And so this is more of your e-com, very salesy, and here are our products email. There's not a lot of content here. It's mostly showing versus telling. And so I wanted to add this one as a contrast, because this one is more about that sales, that sale. They want to secure, they want you to add this onto your box, right? And so sprinkling in a sales email with that nurturing email from Pi, you know, a note from my dog, is a really great way to create that balance. Overall, looking at my inbox from Bark, they could do that a little bit more. But I just wanted to show the contrast between the two, because we brought it up at the top of the call of how you have to build a relationship with your audience. Otherwise, you end up in the promotions and spam folders, or they unsubscribe because you're just selling, and you're not offering anything beyond, hey, I want your money, you know? So any thoughts or reflections, Joanna?
Wow, I never saw this kind of emails before, like where they actually like ask for your dog's name and then email your dog. I really love it. Do you remember if they only ask for your dog's name or also your name? Because like I was wondering if they could have taken the personalization even further, like because there was like, for example, the Dear Human, like if it, you know, could be interesting to see that it's, you know, Dear Brianna, and then it goes on. But I guess they didn't ask for your name, or
I think they did when I set up the account, but I wonder if on like the management side of it,
yeah,
how that
they can't do it.
Yeah, two first names. They might have to set up my name as Pi's last name or something. Then they could put in the code for first name and last name, so it could be both of us. There's probably a way to do it. But yeah, that's probably on the management side of things. But that would be really cool to see both of us. Yeah, it's a great idea.
But I love them, and I like seeing these kind of two, that there's this this looks so much like an e-com like email, and then the other one you showed that it's this much more has this like human connection, or this human to animal connection in there. So I like the variety.
Absolutely.
Cool, thanks for sharing. And I actually didn't know either of these brands, so I'm glad to discover something new.
Join their email list, if nothing else, for some inspiration. Right? If you're ever stuck, this is for our audience. If you're ever stuck, join the email list of brands that you admire and see what they're pointing out and putting out to their customers, and let it inspire you. Yeah,
for sure. That's a good tip. So I'm gonna share my screen now. Happy Carrot Skincare.
Gosh, I love it already. Yes, I can see it.
Okay. This is like their homepage. I just wanted to quickly show this. So this is a small skincare brand from the UK. And I know the person running this brand a little bit. We've hung out in some of the same online circles, and that's why I signed up on the email list. But the thing here is that like I'm not really into like skincare or like online shopping for skincare, and like this beauty niche is really not mine. But I love these emails, and I think it's a sign that they're doing, or she's doing something really cool. And I think Happy Carrot is a great example of e-commerce email marketing that's really feels authentic and has this fun vibe, and that's all about the human connection. It feels like the emails are actually coming from a real person, and I think it's so unique in this space. Like, so I don't know, I don't do a lot of online shopping. I'm like a little bit of old school, but I feel like the brands whose, for example, cosmetic brands, so far the emails, like they're kind of fancy and impersonal and all these things that you were saying, and you don't really, after a while, like you don't really want to open them, because it's just like trying to push the sale, and often you don't really get to know the people behind or really the mission, and I just think this is such a cool example of how you can do e-commerce email marketing differently. So I wanted to showcase this. Yeah, I think it really stands out. So here's after signing up on the email list, here's the email you get. That's the first one I wanted to show. So the subject line is skincare, but different. Like, I mean, it piques my curiosity. And actually, I wanted to mention at this point about this welcome email. It's so important. And like one of the things that gets me just really like annoyed and confused is if I sign up to somebody's email list and then I don't get a welcome email, not even one. You know, you could also send a few, like you could actually send a sequence of a few emails, and this is the time when people are like the hottest for your brand. They want to know what you do and who you are, and then I just can't get it. Don't understand it when brands then just kind of ignore you. It feels kind of rude even sometimes, but anyways. So Victoria sends this welcome email, so good on her, and it comes from Victoria and Happy Carrot Skincare. Hi Johanna, I just spotted that you just signed up to the Happy Carrot Skincare newsletter and I got so excited. See? Looks like I lost my arm somehow too. Well, just in case you're worried that I'm actually a dancing carrot, below you can see me at VegFest a couple of years ago. And it's just like, I'm like, yay, there's humor and it's like different. And like I really want to like scroll now and see like, there she is. And like I'm not gonna read like all the like details of the content, but she mentions here like to help you, I'll be in touch 3-ish times a week with an email about all things skincare, well-being, some inspiration, and so on. So I know exactly what to expect from now on. And yeah, and then there's this small detail at the end that I really like. So what makes Happy Carrot skincare products different to other skincare? Well, I'll be in touch to tell you more tomorrow. Watch out for it. The subject line will be if skincare had superpowers. And I really love this kind of, I forgot the name now, like we've learned it, but this like serialized emails, or this kind of where you end with this, that okay, like there's more to come, and there's this building up this anticipation, and I think this is like a cool way of using that. And so I just thought that this is a very cool example of a simple, fun, authentic feeling welcome email. And then at the end there's like visit the shop here, but it's not like not pushing the sale like right away. And then there's, I'm just checking, then there's a couple of content emails I want to show. Very simple. Want to get more from your skincare. Okay, this could be maybe a little bit more specific to give like a bit of critique, like really to pick my curiosity to open it. Hey Johanna, one of the things you tell me you love about my skincare products is how far they go. A little goes a long way, but what if you could make them last even longer, getting even more value? Check out my new blog, How to Make Your Skincare Last Longer. Which of my tips will you be using? It's very simple, but if this is like, it makes me want to open. Like if like I feel like it's really like talking to the reader and having identified like an issue that they care about, or maybe for whatever reason, like low on money or but yeah, so I like it, and it's just like very brief. Like you don't always have to send really long emails.
Totally. That's such a great point that we haven't talked about yet, is length.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's just, what is this? Like how many sentences? Like maybe 5? Like it can be an email. We all think that email is more formal than social media, but I think it, you can play with the length and
Yeah,
the sentence structure and see how they perform, see what
yeah,
your audience responds to.
yeah. And a lot of Victoria's emails, or the emails from this brand are pretty short. And I think, I mean, this is also, you can think about your brand, what it's like, or what you're like. For example, I can, like, I'm very wordy, or like I I write long messages, so I imagine my emails, when I'm going to start writing them, they're going to be long. But if maybe you're like more short and punchy, and also keep in mind that most people read their emails on a phone, like something like this, it's like really cool and quick to go through on your phone and then click if it speaks to you. So then another content email, the subject line is hormones. I'm like, okay, I'm interested. Could be something that piques my curiosity even more again. But yeah. Hey, Johanna, some of the questions I get asked the most about are hormones and the skin. Can I use your products while I'm pregnant? Is one of them. Short answer, yes. What skincare should I be using now I'm entering menopause? Is another. Short answer, simple nourishing products. Now, while I know more or less the effects on hormonal changes on the skin, I thought there was more learning to do on the menopause specifically. So I've started a really interesting course on menopause and hormonal skin aging. What are your questions about hormones and the skin? I'll be sharing with you what I learned soon. Have you noticed changes in your skin due to hormonal changes and during pregnancy or menopause? A question. I just realized this wasn't the content email I wanted to showcase. This was the third type of email I wanted to share. But anyways, so she's simply asking a question, like sharing what's happening in her life, her business, and engaging with your audience. I mean, this is, if people answer, like it's good for your deliverability, and it's just, I don't know, again, it has this like friendly, casual tone, like it's coming from a real person, and I really appreciate it.
It definitely does. One thing I'm curious about,
Mm.
scroll up a little bit to the questions.
Mm.
How do you feel about multiple questions in an email?
Yeah, good question. I think my marketing mind says stick to one specific question. You're probably more likely it's going to stay in people's mind. They're more likely to answer. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that goes to our point about specificity and simplicity, right?
Yeah.
That way you really get the answer that you're looking for. So between the two questions, she's asking about my personal questions around hormones in the skin that might be related to my experience, right? So we could combine these questions. They're essentially asking the same thing. Like she's asking about my experience and my questions about the
That's
same
true.
topic. So that might be a way to streamline that, make
Yeah.
it a little clearer for the audience.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, very good point. And then I wanted to showcase something I've also seen at the end of some other email lists I'm on, so there's the best wishes, Victoria, and then there's this at the end. Also, when you're ready, here's how I can help you. And as far as I can tell now, most of the emails or all of the emails that come from her have this kind of like I don't know what to call this, like a footer. So there's like, you can read the blog, you can visit the online shop, or then now she's offering these online skincare workshops. So I really like this, like it's leading with there's the value first, or whether it's like entertainment or education or whatever, and then there's always whenever you're ready, you can, pick and choose. What do you think about this?
I like it. Again, this plays with email length, right? She's adding
Yeah.
some additional information. I'd be interested to see the metrics, like if people actually clicked through on some of these links. I've also seen this with nonprofits where They'll do kind of a mission statement and ask for a campaign they're running, and then they'll have a blog type information share. Let's say it's a rescue, they'll talk about the animal that they just saved, to kind of bolster that donation ask. So the first part of the email would be like, hey, we're running this campaign. We're trying to raise X amount of dollars to save X amount of animals. And then after the signature, this second part would go into a story about one of the animals they saved to kind of boost engagement in this similar way. So I have seen brands and organizations play around with it. I think there's a place for it. It's a format to have in your back pocket, right? Like we were talking about with nurturing through variety. Throw it in there so that not every email looks the same.
And this is a nice little touch also to keep in mind if you want, like, did someone forward you this email? Sign up for our emails here. So it might be a way to get some new subscribers. I had another email, but it was but I think I covered everything I wanted to go, and the time is running, so I think I'll leave it at that. But I just want to kind of close with three points that I wanted to make about this this brand. I think this is like persuasive marketing and not pushy. It's actually building a relationship with you and leading. I feel like it's leading with me, like the reader first, instead of pushing for the sale. And then, like, we don't see it here now, but the emails come like at least a couple of times a week. I think maybe even 3 times a week. And it's so important to keep consistent with your emailing, like whether, like, you don't have to email this often, maybe it's once a week, but then ideally stick to it, because people really like consistency, and then it builds trust. And then here, like I mentioned it already, this is I guess like primarily an e-commerce brand selling like sustainable vegan cosmetics, but there are almost no pictures. It's like simple text-based emails and leading with the words, as opposed to these super fancy emails that are mostly pictures, not so much of the message. Like sometimes here I'm missing the pictures a little bit, because like skincare is so visual, so maybe there could be like, you could spice it up with some pictures or GIFs at some point. But this is also like what depends on what your brand is like. But I really like that this feels very different and unique in this e-com space. So
I love that.
I think good job.
Yeah. I'm so glad you shared it. And I love what you shared too about your reflection of persuasive versus pushy. I think she does it really well. I mean, she's signing all of her emails from her, right? So that's one of the main ways to make it more authentic. You have a clear voice. It's coming from the founder every time. It's not just some random person in a huge company. You feel like when you're reading it that she's speaking to you. So that's really, really important. And I know that we talked about perhaps doing an audit like this of ads for next time. And I think that's really important in ad strategy too. In email and ads, and anytime you're selling or asking for money, honestly, today's consumers have gotten so savvy. They know when they're being sold to. They know when you're asking for money. You can't hide it, but you can add authenticity. You can package it more persuasive than pushy. And there are ways to connect with people that they haven't seen before, or that might get them hooked before they realize that you're asking for a sale. So going back to that point about like spamming them with sales and new products and everything, versus here's a story and here's why this will help you, giving a reason and identifying with their pains and that sort of thing. So maybe we can talk more about that when we dive into ads.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
I feel like, yeah, there's so much more to talk about, but I think we've talked nearly an hour, so probably it's time to
It was
sign
so
off.
juicy though. It was so juicy though. And I hope that everyone watching has pulled something that they want to go
Yeah.
try or go optimize an email with. So if you did, let us know, drop a comment, send us a message. We'd love to know if this was helpful, if you'd like to see more episodes like this. And friendly reminder that we are still hoping to interview someone in a future episode. So if you have a brand that you'd like your copy critiqued or you'd just like to share your story, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, let us know.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thanks
So,
for taking the time, Joanna.
yeah, thank you. See you next time.